James having cereal and orange juice. I'm going to talk about The Green Knight and Willy's Wonderland, Wild Game, and watching TV with the Red Chinese. And Elvis and Opie are going to have some pepperoni. And I shouldn't call it pepperoni because I noticed that there's actually a brand of dog treats that's called
pepperoni.
Yeah. And this is not. This is for humans. So I shouldn't call it that.
We treat these guys sometimes. Wow, look at them.
Yeah, they love those things.
So once Pauline gets done with those movies, you're going to get a heavy dose of religious studies.
Well, it's interesting because recently James and I were talking about King Arthur, and I was telling him that I love that stuff.
Oh, that's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight?
Well,
is that what it's about?
Well,
sorry
is,
for interrupting. Yeah, we.
So James knew the story, and this is really well done. There's I was going to talk about cultural appropriation, but you know what? I don't want to. So, because I remember this was somebody that I care about. She was getting married and she'd never talked like that before. So I knew she was getting it from her husband, or soon-to-be husband, right? And she was talking about, I was wearing Indian clothes that a friend of mine gave me, and this person was telling me, well, that's cultural appropriation. No more, one was enough. and I was like, my friend gave me this, and she likes that I wear it, you know, why would it, whatever. But
she gave you a lot of them.
A lot. She gave me so much. Like, I think it was more than a garbage bag full of, she had a lot of clothes. And
she gave me a Canada English dictionary.
Yeah.
That's K-A-N-N-A-D-A, and so that's a language in southern India. And it would be rude of Pauline not to wear that stuff. Yeah. It would have been rude of me not to read that dictionary.
But anyway, this was, at first when I was watching this, I was thinking, should I talk about cultural appropriation? And then I thought, they did a good job with this. So,
is it an American production?
No, but there's just some, I guess you'd have to watch it yourself to see that there's some things in it that you might think.
Cultural appropriation, because it's an English story.
Yeah. So, people really should look. Anglo-Saxon.
Into something like that.
Anyway, but they did a great job. I liked the story. It was long. The movie was long but entertaining. Like, it didn't, it's 2 hours, 9 minutes, but it really doesn't feel long. There's a lot of story there to tell, and it's told really well. So, I'm glad that I watched that. Willy's Wonderland. Now, this is a Nick Cage thing, and by now you know how I feel about Nick Cage.
Maybe even how I feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was going to say...
Not so much resentment, but just...
well, he seems to
pity.
have...
I kind of pity him.
Sure, he seems to have no standards as to what movie he does. He just... Yeah, if you have a teleprompter for me to read the lines, I can get 50 movies done in a year, or whatever. I don't know what he's thinking, right? So,
sorry for interrupting.
No,
I wanted to
that's
get that
fine.
in before you really launched into
Yeah, but so I'm watching this at first and I'm like, oh wow, this is bottom of the barrel maybe for him. As I watched a little more, I'm like, I've seen this story before. And this isn't that long ago. It was made, it says 2020 on the back, so well, that's pretty recent. So anyways, I was watching this and I was thinking, I think this is the same story. What was it called? Friday Night at Freddy's or something like that. It's a horror movie where they're at an old restaurant and some animatronic toys or demon possessed or whatever. It's the same story, only it's told in a little bit different way. And so at first I'm watching it, I'm like, the camera work and whatever, it looks kind of low rent. And what was he thinking being in this movie? And why did they do two versions of the same movie that are pretty recent movies?
It's not like doing The Wizard of Oz.
Or whatever.
Don't do that, please. They probably have, right? Several times.
Well, they did The Wiz. So, which is right? You know that.
I've never seen it, but
no.
It's got to be awful.
Anyway, I haven't seen it either. So anyway, I've just heard about it. So, in this, Nick Cage is a janitor, and he's been coerced into doing this job for the night, and you know, it's a easy way for him to get what he needs and whatever, and I like this take on how he ends up there better than the other movie, and the take on why this still exists in this town or whatever. I like this take better. So I like this story better than Friday Night at Freddy's or whatever that was called. This actually works out better. And plus, I was reminded of watching a TV series that I liked to watch. I was watching that when my dad was dying, and I don't know why I was finding comfort in it. It was a TV series called Dead Like Me, and yeah, it's a pretty good one. So anyway, I was watching that, and when I watched this, I was remembering watching that. And in Dead Like Me, there's the one older woman. She has I guess it's a blog or whatever, or a blog or something like that. And people watch her cleaning her house. She'll give people something to vote on what she'll do, and so they'll say, do the dishes or whatever, and they'll watch her do the dishes. And in the show, the main character was thinking, why would anybody want to watch that? But while I was watching Nick Cage just doing janitorial stuff, I was like, it's kind of nice to watch. So I like that. I like that about this movie, how they have the scary bits, but then, he's back to, it's my break time. I got to go back to break. So then, and somehow the animatronic toys, they go along with that, and he's allowed to have his break, and he plays pinball while he has his break, and then as soon as it's not his break time, he's back to cleaning, or if the animatronic guys come after him, he's fighting them or whatever.
Fascinating.
But yeah.
That's the last thing I want to do doing janitorial is standing on my feet playing pinball.
Yeah.
Because I had heel spurs.
Yeah. So anyway, I like that. You have this action, and then you have the relaxing, watching him clean, and then watching this, the room go from messy to clean. That's always nice. And so I actually enjoyed watching this. Who would have thought? I certainly wouldn't have guessed that from the beginning of the movie, but as it progressed, I enjoyed it. And there's some things about the movie that are silly, horror movie things, whatever. But somehow, switching back and forth from, like, he's on his break, he's cleaning, whatever, you accept pretty much anything that's going on. So I would actually recommend people watch that movie. Wild Game. Now, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know who the target audience is. I guess it would be people who run big, like, wild game operations when they go take people hunting. I guess it would be aimed for them. But they have one guy who's I guess not a like wildlife manager or something. I don't know what he would be called.
So not really a park ranger.
No, because
More of a
he's
manager type.
yeah, and he seems like a nice guy, and he's sort of a wimpy kind of guy, and they kind of make fun of him in this, and he gets killed, and nobody really seems to care that much that he gets killed. It's just like, oh, whatever, you know, he's a wimpy guy, and his brother is a veteran, and has some mental problems, and he goes after the guys that kill his brother, but you're in the movie, he's a bad guy, and the guys that he's going after, the guys that you could probably guess that since the wildlife manager was talking to them and stuff, they're on public land, and they were hunting before it was hunting season. So they're illegal, they're poaching. They're not good guys. They're very, very bad guys. But I guess this is coming in a time where so many people are wanting their freedoms. Well, you know what? If the wildlife wasn't managed, you wouldn't be able to go hunting after wildlife for very long. There wouldn't be enough of it to go around.
Yeah,
Plain and
surprise,
simple.
surprise.
So, like it or
That's
lump it.
amazing.
Watching TV with the Red Chinese. Wow, is this ever a boring movie? 117 minutes. What were you thinking? This is political and whatever. And it's really not a problem with the acting. It's a long, boring story. I don't know if anybody could tell it better, because I don't know if it's worth telling. So, there you go.
That's fascinating.
Oh, okay, so you
Watching.
want to talk about that?
I don't know. Somehow or another, they've got a couple of black people, a couple of African Americans maybe, or something like that.
Well, these are students, so they're living in maybe not the best neighborhood or whatever, right? Young people, you have to, the places that I lived when I was young, James and I were talking about living when we were young, and the thermostat, like I remember the first place I rented, I watched the thermostat, and it went to 12 above Celsius in my place now. And I'd been forewarned, because the one woman who lived in my place, she was talking to other friends of hers, and they were saying, yeah, there was ice in the sink the one winter, right? Like, so not a warm place. And there were signs on the walls, don't use your oven for heating. So there's warnings even before I was
where that was.
renting the place.
It was somewhere north of Calgary, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. And we're not going to mention the place.
And so there's that. And then there was the one place I lived in. I took James by there to see the neighborhood, and it was terrible. Still, they were trying to make it nicer, trying to make it seem hip in Calgary.
I'm pretty sure it's gentrified 100% now, because that's what was happening.
Well, that's what they were trying.
Well,
but it was...
It had a nice view.
It did, yes.
And money buys views.
True.
But, like when you go
it still
across that
terrible.
bridge,
yeah.
It looked pretty bad. So it's kind of like...
I doubt it was any better. Honestly, it looked good, but it...
But that's where that one pet store was at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was I was kind of scared, and that was before I got to the 5.
And that was in the daylight.
In the daylight.
Yeah, I used to walk, before work. I would go when it was still dark out. I'd leave in the morning, go to work, come back, and anyway, that neighborhood was not good. Not good at all. There was somebody living in a garage next door, and I don't know how they were living in there. I imagine they were just, I guess they wouldn't have had a toilet or anything like that in there. But anyway, they were living in the garage, and they were one Christmas. They came home and they were chopping up a frozen turkey with an axe in the backyard. That was unnerving.
Something that you'd see on Family Guy or something.
Yeah, and one day I was riding as a passenger with a friend, and she drove up, and there was a woman in a wheelchair, and she was like this, and I thought she was dead, an old woman, and just sitting on the sidewalk, and beside her was a headless Canada goose. Somebody had taken the head off a Canada goose. It was just like something out of a
David Lynch
movie. It was frightening. So I think we asked her if she was okay, but because I thought she was dead. But anyway, that neighborhood, very interesting. So I guess you're going to talk about books now?
Yeah, well, first I want to talk about all that honking. It's not a Canada goose.
No.
10 minutes?
12:56. So you are.
Anyway, it's a semi backing up an alley, and the alley is like
Come on, honey. Let's go.
2 long blocks
Get in.
long. A sensible company wouldn't send a semi into an alley where the semi has to be backed up the alley. They'd break stuff down into smaller deliveries and send a 1-ton truck, not even a 3-ton truck. Yeah. Sometimes management, is a 3-syllable word where 1 syllable has been left off at the beginning. MIS. That's the syllable. Mismanagement. Anyway, yesterday I was talking about some of these religious studies things that I've done. Great. Okay, read this. I've already done substantial stuff on reading this. Elucidating some of them, not necessarily explaining them. For example, mopsis is mentioned in here. Mopsis. Kind of like he's called the seer, S-E-E-R, not S-E-R-E. The seer, kind of like the prophet of Colophon, place located, it's probably ruined now, but in the western part of Turkey. And Mopsus, they actually found I think it's Aramaic rendering of his name, and it's given as something like Mokshish or Moxus, something like that. How the Greeks got a P out of that, I don't know. How do I know the Greeks screwed it up? Because I've actually found this dude mentioned in the Assyrian annals. In what was called in classical times Cilicia. Probably more something like Cilicia. The Assyrians called it Halaku or something like that. That's what happens when you go from one language to another. There's going to be some differences. And actually the Romans would have called it Cilicia or something like that. They didn't pronounce CIs and CEs like we do, like an S. They pronounced it like a hard K. Presumably something like that. But yeah, I'll leave that for a take-home exercise for you. Get hold of a copy of the, well, it comes in several volumes, but they're available apparently on the internet for free. Eh? You find out there. You find out what I found out. I'm going to take a little bit of linguistic background because the Assyrians messed the name up a little bit because they wanted a pun. They came up with a pun. And it's not just a derogatory pun. It is aimed right at the person. That's how I know I nailed it. It's one cuneiform name. We named the cuneiform where they actually read it correctly. Every syllable. I think it's three, or every symbol. I think it's three. Must be three symbols. And what about? Oh yeah, King Priam of Troy, father of Hector, the big hero and rival of Troy, and a rival of Achilles, the big hero for the Greeks. You know, I swear you can find him in whole or in part, his name, in the Hittite records. There's a little challenge for you. Yeah, because, you know, for about 100 years, it's been kind of frowned upon for people to look for names in the Greek records, in actual historical documents.
I should mention something else about this movie, Willy's Wonderland, with Nicolas Cage. He didn't even need a teleprompter with this because he was just doing janitorial and he didn't.
There wouldn't be much yapping.
There was, yeah. He didn't have to worry about lines. So, and honestly, like, he looked pretty built. He was pretty muscular in that.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I mean, I don't find Nicolas Cage attractive.
Well,
That's me,
have
but
great facial features.
but he actually had a pretty good body in that.
Did he in Ghost Rider too? I can't remember. I think he was wearing
Maybe
kind,
he did,
kind of
yeah. And anyway, so not bad to watch. And so honestly, I think this is a good horror movie for women to watch. Maybe watching a man do janitor. Maybe that's just me because I mean James was a janitor
for decades, not for years, for decades.
So,
did lots of other kinds of jobs too, but that
he,
was my main occupation.
When he first started dating me, he looked at my vacuum cleaner and he was like, "Oh!" and he wound up the cord properly, and he's like, "This is how you do it," and he wound it up. And then I don't know how he did it.
Well,
I didn't want to.
You save space.
I
if you
don't know how he would. So how I do it is I just go like this, and then I plunk it on top.
Well, the thing to do is to wind it around the vacuum cleaner. But
I know it has. It's supposed to be that way, but that's not what I do.
Anyway, you know.
I mean,
at least you had a decent one with
like that, like the garden hose.
Yeah, it's not good to get kinks in
electrical cords. I know.
Or in hoses.
Or in hoses. You're right.
Anyway, Priam. That's another home assignment for you folks. Be a little bit harder, actually, to run across the Hittite records. The annals for them are few and far between. I only know what, really, strictly speaking, the 10-year annals of Merciless II. Let me think. Oh, yeah. You know, you can find one of the Greek heroes or whatever in the battle for Troy, mentioned in the Iliad numerous times by his personal name and also by what was called a patronymic, where he's named after his father. The Russians have that, actually. You know, like, what was the name of Lenin? Is it Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov? Some people will say Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. No, Lenin is kind of like his, that wasn't his last name. No, it's just I think he adopted himself a little nickname for himself, a little bit like a Brazilian soccer player. I'm Socrates, you know, I'm Pelé, you know, I'm Lenin, and stuff. Watch me at work. I've got bloody hands. I really enjoy this kind of work. Anyway, yeah, by his patronymic. So the Ilyich means he was the son of someone called Ilya. Ilya Ulyanov. His father? Ilyich. I think Vladimir was his first name. Easy to forget. And you like that? The first serious revolutionary terrorist. That's his own formula. I presume it's a decent translation from the Russian. Revolutionary terrorist. There have been many people to follow in his bloody footsteps. Even nowadays. Let me see, what else can you find, or have I found, and you can find. So that's, you find one of these heroes in the Hittite records section. The Hittites are complaining about this guy in a place that's recognizably Troy. An alternative name for Troy, but recognizably Troy. And then complaining about him messing around somewhere south of the Hittite Empire. I'm not going to say exactly where, because, you know, I don't want to give everything away. You know, like I don't want to have to be doing a spoiler. Stuff like that. You know, like the Assyriologists already found Midas. The Assyrians called him Mita. Welcome to the world of linguistics, comparative linguistics. Somehow or another, the Greeks decided to add an S, and that would be something like a masculine ending to Mita, and decided to change the T to a D, Midas, Mita. Mita of Mushki. And so Midas was the king of Phrygia, according to the Greeks. But the Assyrians called him Mita of Mushki. And the Mushki, you know, like, I think it was more like of a generic kind of designation. Maybe Caesarea Mazaka, is that what it's called? Something like that. It was in classical times. Kind of like in central Turkey. Became kind of a generic designation for people from that area, because I swear, in some of the earlier Assyrian records, they're dealing with people that came from that area around Caesarea. I think it's Mazaka, something like that, and they were actually Hittites. Check it out. But at any rate, yeah, he's already been found. They actually found his grave, a big tumulus, stuff like that. Did they? I'm not sure whether they found his skeleton inside there. They claim to have discovered the skeleton of Alexander the Great's dad, Philip, the whatever, was he the second of Macedon? Of course, that's not really a legendary figure. More Greek. Oh yeah. You know, there's an eclipse mentioned in the Odyssey. The follow-up, kind of like, to the Iliad. And the Odyssey tells about the wanderings of Odysseus as he's trying to make it back from Troy to his home island, really, of Ithaca. I don't know if that still exists by that name. Off the west coast of Greece. And according to the Homeric account, Odysseus took 10 years to make it back. And when he makes it back, he's got some problems, because he's lost all his crew, as I recall. He just gets washed up on the beach. And he has to kind of get his resources together. He has to reveal himself to his son, who's stayed at home during the Trojan War and stuff like that. And there have been people who have been trying to marry Odysseus' wife so they can become king